Hi, my name is Max Dean. I'm an artist and I live in Toronto. We're sitting in the Weston Family Community Gallery in the Art Gallery of Ontario, and we're in the waiting room. This is a waiting room for albums. This is all of the albums that are waiting to go out and find new custodians and new homes. I have to say that, making interactive work for close to, it's going to be 40 years, will be next year, 40 years, I'll have made my first or exhibited my first interactive piece. And what's interesting about this is that this certainly is an interactive presentation or piece. And I have to say that it's probably the most touching. Well, the very first family photo album I bought in Seattle in 1993, I believe. And I was actually looking for still photographs, single photographs for a piece that is actually in the Art Gallery of Ontario collection, a piece called As Yet Untitled. And this piece shows found family photographs, and it shows them one at a time. And I thought, well, I might buy some albums and cut up the albums and use them in this particular piece. So I was in Seattle and at the Pike Street Market where I came upon some albums, and I brought them back to the hotel room. And I was looking through them and I thought, oh, there's just no way that I can cut these albums up. And so this really just started a 10-year kind of crusade almost, or passion of collecting albums. And by the time I started to wind it down, I had somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 plus albums, a gazillion still photographs and slides on top of that. The albums themselves were incredibly personal. And these were stories that people had put together, and as I've since thought about it, probably the only story that people ever put together in a visual format, and sometimes even in a written format. And they became very special kinds of things because they were these narratives. So there was this kind of narrative that existed, and this kind of preciousness that I invested in it, which I suddenly realized it was me investing in it, and me looking at the albums and seeing not only the family or the event that was going on around me, but they were a mirror to me too. And I was seeing myself in them. And so how could I cut up something that was in some sense is something about someone else, but also something about me? There are albums there that have real personality, that have a real kind of, that are either telling a story or they're documenting something, or they're all different aspects. But one of the things that's evident upstairs, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see them together, is these various personalities coming together and talking with each other. About 2 years ago, I was at a point where I decided that having 600 albums and not really looking at them a lot, it was time for me to pass on the custodianship of these albums. And so at this point, I proposed that what we do is that the gallery would make a selection of the albums, and that the balance of the albums, we would then pass on the custodianship of the albums to the public, and the public would take care of the albums for us, so to speak. So the crux of the idea is that the collection exists as a whole. All 600 albums are bonded together under my collecting. And what we're doing now down here in the waiting room and out on the street is we're passing on the custodianship of the remaining 380 albums. Photobug. The Photobug is a 1965 Volkswagen Beetle which has been modified and added to. And what we've done is we've added a basically cube van-like structure on the back of the Bug. The Bug's purpose is to take the albums out into the public, and it has been configured in such a way that it opens all up and all of the albums are presented, and there's a little presentation area and things like that. And I think what is interesting about the Bug is that it is a dream, and I want that kind of magic to just spread out over the whole project. And I thought that we needed something like that in order not only to propel us physically out into the environment, but also to propel us into that space of what this project is all about.
They're very special albums. They're quite unique.
Yeah, I know.
In the history and joy. So welcome to the group. You're part of the collection now.
Thank you.
People really are responding to these in an emotional way that I never anticipated. And to precipitate or to allow this to take place is just That's the magic to me.